Welcome to the Workforce Advantage, where thought leaders and innovators shape the workforce of tomorrow.
What if outsourcing your workforce didn't mean losing control, but instead meant unlocking your workforce's full potential while you focus on core competencies? Hi, I'm your host, Tim Dupree. This episode of the Workforce Advantage explores how fully managed workforce solutions can positively impact workforce stability and operational success for a business in the reverse logistics industry. Joining us today is Juan Luevano, Vice President of Business Process Outsourcing, or BPO, Solution Design and Process Excellence for Kelly. Juan will shed light on how Business Process Outsourcing, or BPO, uses existing infrastructure and processes to preserve quality control, retain valuable process knowledge, and reduce turnover. So listen in as we uncover how BPO is redefining outsourcing and empowering businesses to scale confidently. Hi, Juan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. So to start us off, could you share a bit about your role at Kelly and how your expertise in business process outsourcing, or as we call BPO, solution design and implementation, connects to the reverse logistics industry?
Sure. Just a little bit about myself. So I, as you said, lead the business process outsourcing division for solution design and process excellence. So today I look to optimize their workforce strategies by integrating custom managed workforce solutions that reduce turnover, increase efficiency, and drive long-term success. And what that means to the reverse logistics operations, particularly very complex areas, requiring precision, consistency, and adaptability. So by leveraging BPO, companies can keep their operations running smoothly while take on the responsibility of workforce stability through the outsourcer. We take on the training, continuous process improvement through our operating methodology. And that's how we hope to make these operations more efficient. And so increase productivity and decrease cost over time is the goal.
Yeah, increasing efficiencies is really important as operators are looking at their business to determine how they could potentially benefit from different kind of working arrangements, which really kind of nicely folds into our first topic, and that's how the reverse logistics industry can benefit from an outsourced solution. But before we do that, let's start by maybe addressing some of the stigma and misconceptions that are sometimes attached to outsourcing in general. Why do you think it's the case that there's a stigma or concern around outsourcing, specifically in reverse logistics?
Sure. And I think just in general in the outsourcing space, many leaders associate outsourcing with offshoring or losing control of their operations. That's a misconception, especially in reverse logistics. Unlike traditional outsourcing, our BPO solutions keep the workforce on site, embedded within your existing infrastructure. So the idea is you maintain workforce day-to-day processes because you're there on site. Your workforce remains aligned with your operations, and you retain your competitive edge by focusing on your core business, which may be in sales or finding other clients within the reverse logistics space. The reality is that outsourcing, when done strategically, enhances control rather than diminishes it. And we're just there to help you focus on those pieces for yourself.
That's interesting. I think some of our listeners might be surprised to hear you say that it actually increases control, not diminishes it. But specifically around efficiency, how do the misconceptions about outsourcing actually impact workforce decisions, the talent decisions that operators are making every day about their business, and maybe even turnover rates?
Sure. So many operation leaders turn to temporary staffing, for example, as a stopgap without realizing there's more effective alternatives, right? Managing a workforce isn't a core competency of most of these reverse logistics companies, and high turnover and constant retraining drain resources. So what we aim to do in a fully managed BPO solution is help eliminate the churn and inconsistency, allowing businesses to operate with a more stable and engaged workforce, and letting you once again focus on your core business.
Yeah, whenever I spend time with clients, turnover is always a very important topic of the conversation. And I think it's probably especially true for reverse logistics. What unique challenges do reverse logistics leaders face around high turnover rates?
Like any company, turnover is difficult for anyone, especially the constraint of retraining disrupts workflow, stops product from moving. There's also a great loss of intellectual capital potentially. Institutional knowledge leaves the building when you're doing that. And if you're caught in that constant churn and doing this over and over, it becomes you start losing quality control and throughput declines over time, leading to missing SLAs with your client, continually losing that workforce. So we hope to jump in and help you avoid those issues.
Do these challenges impact stability, scalability of the operation?
For sure, just like anything else, stability and scalability in the reverse logistics space is dependent on efficiency and processes. So when turnover is high, like I said before, training costs skyrocket and productivity suffers, operational bottlenecks emerge, delay in returns processing the RMAs, the return material authorizations. Scaling becomes very difficult over time because you can't grow to the speed that you would like to, or even to your sales. So by implementing a fully managed BPO model, companies shift the burden of workforce management to an expert partner like us. And we have over 20 years of experience doing these types of things and learn from our mistakes as well and look for best practices along the way.
So we've talked a lot about challenges, stability, scalability, turnover. So how does a solution, specifically a BPO solution from Kelly, address some of the concerns we've talked about?
So again, as a third party, we own the work outcome and we look to build that into the metrics that we create for the client or the metrics that he already is contracted with their client. So we work with them to make sure we understand that piece of the business. We train workers to follow your processes or the logistics process for the vendor, and policies ensuring compliance and quality, right? We reduce turnover by offering competitive wages, benefits, career growth opportunities, because we want these individuals to feel like they're part of a bigger company. And we do that through our many different sites that we manage today across the United States and North America, including Canada and Mexico. And we hope to give them a route to grow within the company as well.
So earlier you made the comment that lots of customers actually experience an increased control as opposed to diminished control. So Juan, how does Kelly ensure that quality control and operational efficiency are maintained or even improved when an outsourcing solution is implemented?
We try to align our workforce model to your key performance indicators, or in our case, they would probably be turned into service level agreements within our contract. And we try to integrate service level agreements directly into our deliverables and into the understanding of all of our employees on site. We implement lean methodologies through our operating system to drive efficiencies. Of course, any changes we're going to make to your process, we'll check with you because we don't know what your upstream or potentially downstream processes look like, but we see a portion of the business that you outsource to us. It's a data-driven approach. We want to speak with data and drive our solutions with that.
So we talked a lot about the advantages. I'm sure there's leaders out there that are hesitant. They've heard, misconceptions like we've talked about. So how do you approach convincing reverse logistics leaders about outsourcing or talking to them about a BPO solution and how that can be a game changer for their business?
Hey, I don't know how many times I get on an airplane and somebody says, or who do you work for? And I say, Kelly. And they say, oh, yeah, the Kelly girls. And then I have to explain how I work for a division that's around business process outsourcing, which is a little different. Then they go, okay, so what do you do with that? So the conversation from there goes to our over 20 years experience in outsourcing and managing different disparate type solutions, and even in the reverse logistics industry for different electronic manufacturers and different automotive firms that do some of that as well. Then we provide case studies where we transformed operations to give them a better idea of what we've done and how we do it. And then in order to really understand what we do, we use a train the trainer approach. So we kind of, to ease their hesitancy to do something like this, is explain to them that we're learning from them initially. And then going forward, we're going to drive what they're looking for and what their clients are looking for.
So earlier you talked about the operational metrics that you would likely adopt, potentially move over to the BPO operation. Are there metrics or indicators that the business would use to then evaluate how the outsourced partner is performing?
Sure, and it's not a one-size-fits-all type of situation. So we work with you to determine what's important to you and what's important to your clients. But something that we always measure is response time, resolution rates, for example, in the reverse logistics space, productivity per employee on RMAs, on throughput, etc., workforce retention and engagement levels of the employees. So we run surveys, we do different things to make sure the employees understand what their role is and how important it is to the company. And then how do we recognize those employees through different programs, kudos programs, we call them kudos programs, is just to drive that. And quality and defect rates, those are another metrics that we measure. And then process improvement, implementation, and cost savings. So as a outsourced provider, we understand that we're only as good as our last process improvement or our last monthly metrics and how we did. So we're striving to continually improve what we do and how we do it to make sure we're providing value to the client.
I would love to hear you walk through a recent case where your team designed, implemented a solution that helped drive some of the workforce improvements that you just talked about. Do you have one in mind?
One that comes to mind is maybe an automotive case where they're doing parts distribution for different clients, as well as some of the reverse logistics components on returns and pieces of in this case, the auto parts that come back. And they outsourced, which happens a lot with us, their lowest performing facility, and said, okay, so you think you can do this, and showed them the 20 years experience and what we've done in the past and case studies and all those things. Okay, well, as kind of a test case, they said, why don't you manage this lowest performing operation? And frankly, we love those types of opportunities because there's room for growth. I don't want to walk into a perfectly running operation and then they say, you run this and make it better. There is opportunities in everything we do, but this was one where they actually gave us the worst performing one out of, I think, 11 operations. And then, within 90 days, we transformed it into the highest performing site, surpassing their productivity and quality benchmarks by stabilizing the workforce and optimizing the processes. We reduced errors, improved cycle times, and increased overall efficiency. So that's one that comes to mind. This demonstrates how the right workforce strategy can turn an underperforming operation into a competitive advantage. And I think that's frankly the type of operations we like to work with, or the type of opportunities we like to be given.
Yeah, nothing like taking the worst performing operation and turning it around and then proving that you can do it again and again. So it's a great use case. Thanks, Juan. So when you think of the emerging trends happening in business process outsourcing, what are some of them that reverse logistics leaders or other businesses should keep an eye on right now?
Just in general, and for reverse logistics, skilled labor shortages are driving demand for workforce stability. So you don't want to continuously have that churn in your operation and retraining cost and losing intellectual capital over time and that stability, losing productivity, driving up cost, all those things. Those are something that's an emerging trend and why people are going to outsourcing models, because now that burden is shifted onto the vendor. AI and predictive analytics are optimizing workforce planning. So and AI is new to everybody, new to me, new to you, and we're all learning how to use it. But I think we're going to have to adapt to those new tools that AI will bring. And I think part of it is predictive analytics, as well as training on demand as needed through different tools as well. And we as Kelly are looking into all those types of tools and working with you to implement them if needed.
So, thinking of the typical leader who makes these decisions, what advice would you give them as you're exploring an outsourced solution, especially when it comes to fear of losing control or maybe quality going down?
I think, companies that proactively adapt to these trends will maintain a strong competitive workforce. And I think what we are striving to do is to continually enhance that ability for you. Looking at innovations, what will define, I think the innovations of AI driven workforce analytics will optimize labor planning in real time. And that's going to be a big change. And we're going to have to continually adapt to that.
So I love how you talked about AI and some of the other innovations that's going to define not just BPO solutions, but the workforce. Are there other innovations or shifts that you see coming that will define the workforce of tomorrow?
I think, as I said before, training will become more dynamic, leveraging on-demand learning tools. So individuals will not have to leave the workstation to determine how to do a certain process. It'll be on iPads, it'll be on screens, it'll be three-dimensional so that we can continually drive that. Integrated workforce solutions will be critical for efficiency, again, and scalability. And how you do that and what tools you utilize is going to be what makes you or breaks you as a reverse logistics company or in general, just a company.
I love the fact that you brought up training because every single client we talk to lately talks about the need for upskilling and reskilling. So I think that's so important when we're thinking of tomorrow's workforce. Well, that's it for this episode of The Workforce Advantage. Once again, I'd like to thank our guest, Juan Luevano, for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking about the fully managed workforce, especially in the reverse logistics space. I'd also like to thank our audience for listening in. Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you don't miss our next episode. Again, I'm Tim Dupree. Until next time, stay ahead of the curve and make your workforce work for you.